week 5, Dan Rubenstein, my good friend in Chicago, Illinois. How goes it today?
It's great, Ty. It's great. Week 5 is great because we are on the precipice of October, which means football weather in some parts of the country, which is nice. And for me, week 5 is nice because this is when teams typically have to stop running from competition. Yes. So it is nice because there are conferences that play, 3 or 4 guppies, or not guppies, but less challenging. I saw Lane Kiffin said, let's be clear, Wake Forest isn't exactly preparing us for the SEC. And I was like, oh, okay, Lane. Not wrong.
He's not
but
wrong.
He said it out loud.
Honest. He's honest.
And so, yeah, Ole Miss has Kentucky, I believe, this week, right?
Yep.
Indiana has Maryland, right? And not that UCLA is a terrible team, but it's just different. And so it is nice that we'll get some more interesting road trips. We'll get some feistier matchups. I like to say I'm collecting like candy data candy, right? As I'm
data candy?
Yeah, filling up my Dano Lantern as we get into October with data, Ty. That's all I crave, right? That I have my Danalytics, my spreadsheet with my points per drive and who's improved and who's regressed. And, I love looking at that stuff. There's not anywhere near enough data right now to feel good about where we stand. So this is it's a hearty week to fill up the Dano Lantern, which I love.
The Dano Lantern. I'm going to commit that one to memory. Welcome back to the show. I'm Ty. He is Dan. This is our week 5 preview episode of the Solid Verbal. If you're new here, hit follow, hit subscribe. If you're not new here and you've been here a while, please share this link with your friends. We are going to extend the contest that we ran last week. It was successful. I will give you details on that a little bit later on in this episode, but stand ready.
Yep.
Stand pat. Going to need you to share this link out to help grow the Verballerhood. Of course, Verballers.com is where you can go if you want to play Run the Board, which I will talk about in a little bit as well. Do we have a nickname for this week? You kind of panned through.
I did,
your intro.
And I do. Yeah, the nickname this week is based on the fact that there's a lot of lines here, and I don't know, like Purdue being only a 10-point dog against Nebraska, and Nebraska's flawed, but Purdue has been real bad, or really bad. USC being 15-plus point favorites against Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's offense might be very rough this year, but there's still a degree of some of these teams not really earning this number. I think UCF is favored by a couple touchdowns with a Ted Roof defense.
15 points against Colorado.
So there's sort of this, what have you done to earn this line? So I have this as Silver Spoon Saturday. Let's earn this respect before just being given these numbers.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
all.
We are men of the people here, Dan, real salt of the earth types.
Yeah.
We believe you got to earn that number here.
You got to earn the number, right? That's why I have my Dano Lantern ready to see. Hey, real quick, it'd be great if you could consider subscribing to the YouTube channel down below. It really helps us out.
You want to pick some games?
Let's pick some games.
Dan, Ty, help. I need picks of the week.
Week 5 is loaded. Loaded to the brim. Loaded to the brim. Get your stuff out of the way. There's a slight window of opportunity, which I can discuss.
Okay.
We want you to get in on a Run the Board pick'em game. Go to playruntheboard.com. You'll find out all the details there that you need in order to get in on the pick'em game. This week, we are giving away a $100 Nike gift card.
Ooh.
To the victor goes the spoils. Get some new shoes. Get some active wear, whatever you're into. $100 Nike gift card. Pick that up on our own accord. Not a sponsor. Absolutely could be. We have 12 things that we are picking against the spread, 10 games, 2 player props. You play against the entirety of the Verballerhood. All you need to do in order to get in on that game is sign up to be a certified or a premium Verballer. Not only do you get access to the game, you get access to our Discord, you get access to our bonus content, you get access to these episodes a little bit early and without the ads.
Yes, sir.
Vote in the Verballer Top 12 poll, if that's something that you're into as well.
Yeah.
A great response to that. All of these games that we're going to discuss here, at least at the top, are certainly featured in our slate of action this week on Run the Board. Let's start at high noon on ESPN. Oklahoma State at Kansas State. This line has jumped around, Dan.
Yeah.
When I made our document, it said Kansas State -6. It has come down to Kansas State -4.5. I was looking back through my notes for last week.
Yeah.
When the Pokes played Utah. And as you know, that was my Ashanti game.
It's about trust.
It's about trust, right?
Of course.
It was about Utah's defense. It was about Cam Rising. We thought Cam Rising was going to play. Obviously did not. If I were to ask you that trust question right now about these two teams, especially after Oklahoma State got dominated by Utah, after K-State got blown out and was mistake-prone on the road against BYU, what is the answer? Which of these two sides do you trust more?
Okay, so the results of the BYU game were interesting just because I think BYU had 3 points on non-short fields, which is great. Win however you can win comfortably, however you can win comfortably. Utah probably has the best pass defense out west in the western footprint or whatever. So that's going to be a tough ask for Oklahoma State. In terms of trust, I definitely trust Mike Gundy in this matchup more than I trust Chris Kleiman. 4 or 5, I believe.
4-1 against Chris Kleiman since they have played against each other.
That one loss was a 48-0 loss that Kansas State, I think it was a Will Howard game, absolutely drubbed Oklahoma State. Okay, so my trust here is actually with Kansas State because I think Kansas State just had themselves an awful week last week against BYU. I just think sometimes you are going to have clunkers that you can come nowhere near winning. I don't think Kansas State is bad. I don't think Kansas State is crazy overrated. Maybe I personally overrated Avery Johnson's ability to get to New York for the Heisman ceremony just a touch in July. Just a touch.
Just a touch.
He is not a finished product in terms of a passer. Far from it. I trust the Kansas State lines more than I trust the Oklahoma State lines. I am worried about, once again, the Oklahoma State offensive line and a little bit about their defensive line. I think they absolutely have playmakers on defense, but I'm a little bit worried with what Utah did on the ground and showed what they could do on the ground in Stillwater last week with regard to Oklahoma State. And with Kansas State ceiling as a running team, both with Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens, I think it's a great bounce back opportunity in the Little Apple for Kansas State. You're not what you are on your worst day. You're not what you are on your best day. I am giving the points here, and I think Kansas State is going to win this game by a touchdown.
I'll tell you what I don't trust.
Yeah.
I don't trust Oklahoma State right now. And we've seen a trend emerge where they can't run or stop the run. Or stop the run.
Or stop it, yeah.
And that's a problem on Saturday because that's K-State's preferred offense.
Yeah.
Right. After we saw that version of Avery Johnson against BYU, I have to imagine if you tell Chris Kleiman, hey, man, you want to run it 50 times and win this game, he would sign on that line in a second.
Yeah.
And that's what stuck in my craw when I was trying to figure this out because I could play it both ways. I really can. I just think K-State's going to run it and run it and run it, and they're going to win this game like 27-21. I'm going to give the points as well. I am. I'm going to give the points. I did kind of recoil a little bit because Mike Gundy has had the success.
I know.
And he is that kind of guy in some of these matchups where you see it's gone in their direction a number of times, and it tends to repeat itself with Gundy. He tends to beat the same teams over and over again. And so to that end, yes, I definitely did a double take, but I think I'm with you. I'm going to give the points. I also wanted to add this since I've been on a big EPA kick lately.
Please.
Expected points added. Can look at it on a per play basis. Oklahoma State's rushing attack, more to the point of them struggling to run the football.
Mentioned this a couple weeks ago, yeah.
Led by Ollie Gordon, who had a monster season last year, currently 88th in the nation with an EPA of negative 0.01 per rush. So what does that mean?
They're losing points every time they try to run.
I don't mean to dumb this down for a
Yeah.
very smart audience, but that's what it means.
Yeah.
It means that the rush is preventing them from scoring more points. If that part of the offense is truly broken here, that's ball game for the Pokes. That's ball game. The whole thing depends on that working.
Yeah.
This year. And they're solid elsewhere. They've got playmakers, and this is not me saying I hate the team.
Right.
But that was kind of like the central guiding force of this team.
Now,
and if they don't have it,
Yeah.
that's going to be an issue moving forward.
The counterpoint is if I'm going to extend grace to Kansas State, I should also extend it to Oklahoma State, right? That maybe last week was their worst week of the season, right? That we shouldn't judge Oklahoma State based on what will probably be the best defense they'll face all year long. They didn't score. They didn't get in the end zone until the fourth quarter, right? They benched Alan Bowman.
This running thing has been a trend.
It's not new. It's not new.
Right? If it were a one game only type of thing, I hear you. But
and they were at home.
This has been a trend, and that's worrying to me. So I'm 27-21 K-State. I did kind of go back and forth. I think K-State wins. I'm not super confident about
Right.
that point spread. Although now that it's come down, I feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah, as do I. Yeah, that was at home against a backup quarterback, by the way.
Yeah.
So we shall see.
3:30 on Peacock. Joy.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Louisville at Notre Dame. Notre Dame a 5.5-point favorite. When I jotted this one down earlier in the week, it was Notre Dame minus 4.5. And at one point it went to minus 6.5. And my question that I jotted down in all caps here on my Google Doc was, who are these people? Who is going heavy on Notre Dame?
I tried to explain this to you.
Who is going heavy on Notre Dame? If you have watched Notre Dame at all this year, at all, who is going heavy on Notre Dame? Are you watching the games or are you just watching the spreadsheet? Because I've watched the games and I think you're nuts if you go heavy on Notre Dame in this matchup.
Yeah, this year Notre Dame's passing attack makes like the Ian Book passing attack look like the old Raiders, like Ken Stabler launching it down the field.
Who are these people? Let me talk about Louisville.
Yeah, please.
Okay, we haven't talked much about Louisville.
They played Georgia Tech, beat them comfortably-ish.
We haven't talked about Louisville because the last time we talked about Louisville, we looked at who they played and we said, we can't really talk about Louisville yet.
Right.
But now they played Tech. It was a nice win. They won that game by 12. This offense, I think, has been solid across the board. Defensively, some issues with the pass, but still pretty good. You got to feel good.
Very good against the run, yeah.
Very good against the run. This is a solid team again. I think Jeff Brom's done a good job. It's early. Things can obviously still break. People can get hurt. But by and large, seems like a pretty solid team.
Yeah.
There is an enormous edge here for Louisville, and that is their defensive line against Notre Dame's front. And I don't know how Notre Dame's going to handle it. Because if I'm Jeff Brom, I'm going to put 7 guys in the box, 8 guys in the box.
Sure.
And I'm going to dare Riley Leonard to beat me through the air. Because truly, at the start of their last game against Miami, Ohio, it looked like he had the passing yips. It really did. It was that bad. I would force him to throw the ball 35 times and beat me.
Sure.
And that could honestly be their best offensive game plan, too, to try and force a mistake or force field position or something of that nature, because the Notre Dame defense is really good. And that's the part that really sticks in your craw if you're a Notre Dame fan, because the defense is outstanding. It's like a brick wall. The offense, though, cannot get its act together. So for me, if I'm Jeff Brom, which I'm not, I am putting everybody close to the line of scrimmage. I am trying to stop that ground assault, and I'm going to try and make Riley Leonard beat me through the air, something that he has certainly not proven that he can do while wearing that Notre Dame uniform.
Okay. Couple questions. Is Notre Dame's defense the best unit on the field to you?
Probably.
I mean, Louisville on either side has the opportunity to be that by the end of the year, but just in terms of what we've seen and who they've played.
Notre Dame's defense is better.
Okay, so we're talking about the best unit on the field playing at home as not dramatic favorites.
Correct.
What is it right now, the number?
5.5.
5.5, so it's down. That's almost enough to make me think that Notre Dame is the move here, that they're being undervalued. What do you think is the reason why Riley Leonard is not throwing down the field? Is it fear over the offensive line not giving him time? Is it receiver separation? Is it play calling? Is it his own? Is it injury where he doesn't feel like he can put his body into a pass that goes more than 15 yards or something? What is the reasoning when you watch this game, when you watch this team?
I have 2 theories that have been bouncing around in my head.
Okay.
The first is just that he's not that good.
Okay.
That he looked good at Duke because Mike Elko was a hell of a coach, but he's not that good.
Okay.
And that was my concern when they got him.
He was healthier. Yeah.
And he was healthier, but that was my concern when they got him. Is that true? I don't know if that's true, but that was my first thought. Second thought, more from a scheme standpoint, this is a guy who made it onto the national scene by being a big-time improviser. Mm-hmm. He's not a guy that you put in the pocket. He's not a guy even that you build like a defined system around. He is truly draw it up in the dirt and let Riley Leonard go do what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And so there's a case to be made that what Notre Dame has tried thus far has kind of kept him more in a box than his skill set would want him to be. Mm-hmm. It's hard to say. You know, the line certainly does not help because the line has been a revolving door and they're hurt up there and a new up there. So that obviously adds insult to injury. But my hunch is that it's some combination of the scheme that they're trying to fit this guy into with just the starting point. I think he's talented. He's obviously a hell of an athlete. He can run like a deer. But in terms of being a passer, that's where we're starting to see some of these issues. And, it's not going to come out so much against a team like a Miami, Ohio, but it will come out against a team like Louisville, which I think has a good defense, has a good defensive front. They're going to get pressure on him. I'm just curious to see how they handle it. I think Notre Dame will be able to run to some extent because Jeremiah Love is, I've said this to you before, he's like a stronger Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really, really good. He's going to play in the league at some point. But I still think there's going to be this circumstance where Louisville can stack the box, can force Riley Leonard into a mistake. And if he doesn't improve drastically over what we've seen the last couple weeks of the season, it's going to be trouble. I've got Louisville winning this game outright, by the way.
Yeah.
I've got them 23-17 over Notre Dame.
Man, how much?
As I said before, I don't think Notre Dame Stadium's the toughest place to play in the world, regardless of what some Notre Dame fans think.
Right.
And I think Louisville's a pretty good team.
What time's kickoff? 3:30 Eastern, you said?
3:30 Eastern on Peacock, yeah.
I have Louisville here, but I don't think they're winning. I have Louisville. I'm going to take the points. I think they lose this game by 3 or 4 points, and I still think there is value in taking a very good defense at home. I still think there's value, and you look at the teams Tyler Shuck has and hasn't beaten. He hasn't beaten good defenses. He hasn't won big games, and for the sake of something new in the sport, I hope he does. That'd be great. That'd be a cool evolution for him. He's injury prone, and I don't know. There's something about this Notre Dame team. I'll say it once again. I think they're opponent snobs. I think they play down to and play up to the situation. And so Louisville certainly has, they're ranked. Yes, Louisville?
Yeah. It's one of 4 ranked matchups in week 5.
I think they have all of Notre Dame's attention. I think Notre Dame wins this game 21-17.
Okay. So we agree then. We're both going points.
Yeah. I'm taking the points, but I think Notre Dame ultimately is going to score in more creative ways. Riley Leonard can still throw a 4-yard air pass that gets taken to the house for 56.
I'm telling you, if you would have seen the first couple drives of that game last week,
opponent snubs.
You can't even assume that he can do that. It was that bad.
Louisville's not in the MAC. They'll be all right.
Fair enough. 7:30 NBC, Illinois at Penn State, another ranked matchup.
Yes.
Penn State now favored by 19 points, Stan.
Man.
19 points. I am grateful as a Penn State alum, by the way, that whatever jujitsu they pulled to get this as a night game is helpful because that crowd at 7:30 is going to be sauced up.
Soused.
They're going to be loud. They're going to be proud. They're going to be wearing white. It's an unofficial whiteout, which don't get me started on the official versus the unofficial thing. But
right.
Everybody's going to be rocking in Beaver State. How do you feel about this game? I have some strong thoughts.
I feel pretty good about this game. One, as I just want to see it. Like, Illinois is like one of your winning is a skill type teams this year. That they've been finding ways, whether it was late against Kansas, late against Nebraska in overtime. The interesting thing to me about Illinois in this matchup specifically is they are one of the slowest teams in the country.
Yes.
Their pace is very slow. And so they don't go 3 and out. They can extend drives. And they might be built in such a way with a couple of pretty good, if not really good receivers in Zachary Franklin and Pat Bryant, that maybe they're not built dissimilarly to like what Bowling Green was able to do. Now, there's only one Harold Fannin Jr. Ty. This is what we talk about all the time. There's only one.
Top of the Harold Power rankings.
Yes. He's not being paid enough by Bowling Green. That's my guess. I think Illinois is able to score a little bit in this game at a slower pace that makes this number kind of untenable. And I think they're going to get some stops. I don't think they're going to get enough stops. I have this as 31-20 Penn State, that I think Penn State will be able to move the ball on the ground some. I think there will be opportunities through the air. This might be another frustrating, like, who is the receiver? Who is the safety valve, whatever, for Penn State? But I just think there's too much here for Penn State. So I have 31-20.
I think Illinois is a 2-2 team masquerading as a 4-0 team.
Okay.
I think they could have, maybe should have lost to Kansas.
So this is an LRO moment for them.
LRO, yeah. They should have lost to Nebraska.
Luck runs out.
And I'm not trying to be negative Nancy here.
No.
But it's, as we say, you just said it, winning is a skill. So they've done it.
Mm-hmm.
I like them, generally speaking. I like Luke Altmaier. He's been terrific. He's 10 touchdowns, no interceptions.
I was going to say,
so far.
he had the pick issues last year, and so far, none such.
He's been
luck.
great.
Yeah.
He's been great. And you mentioned Zachary Franklin and Pat Bryant. There's a lot to like on this team. I think it's a solid 7 or 8 win team by the time all is said and done.
Great.
Illinois is not winning this game, though. They're not winning this game because Penn State's going to kick their teeth in on the ground. And they're going to force Luke Altmaier to throw 2, maybe 3 interceptions. I'll set the over-under at 2.5.
Okay.
Illinois needs Luke Altmaier to keep doing what he's been doing, which is remain perfect. And Penn State's not going to let that happen. I think this is right around the right number. What do you say, 31-20?
31-20.
30-13 Penn State, Illinois covers.
Barely covers. But you think it's the pace thing and maybe a couple of pop plays, like when I say pop plays, I mean like pop it downfield for a big gain kind of thing.
Yeah. I need to see if I can get some odds on a defensive touchdown. This feels like one of those games.
Okay.
Where you have a defensive or a special teams touchdown, something like that. But 30-13, a game that feels slow, feels kind of boring, and doesn't feel quite as lopsided as the final score might indicate.
Okay. Extra day to prep for Illinois coming off of the Nebraska win. By the way, Illinois' defense did a very good job against Nebraska on the ground. Penn State's a different team, but that was a nice test, I think, to show
Penn State's
that they could limit them.
Kick their teeth in, Dan.
Okay.
They're going to kick their teeth in on the ground.
Love it.
That's why they're going to win.
I love, when I say I love it, I love your confidence. It's great.
Kick their teeth in.
Okay.
Last, but certainly not least in our big game segment. Oh, baby, oh, baby, oh, baby, oh, baby, oh, baby.
Yeah.
This is the big guy.
Mm-hmm.
7:30 ABC. Georgia -2 on the road in Tuscaloosa to square off against Alabama. This might be the biggest game of the season.
Sure.
Full stop. I mean, this game has so much meaning attached to it, not just within the SEC, but within the national playoff conversation. And gosh, you could slice this a million different ways. There is obvious intrigue here. Bama won this game last year. You remember in the SEC title, 27-24. It was a good game. That's what punched their ticket into the playoff.
Kirby's
this
what,
year,
1-4 against Bama?
Something like that, yeah. Different circumstances this year, though.
Of course.
It's going to be Kalen DeBoer's first crack at Georgia. He gets them at home in Tuscaloosa, which is nice. There's also a real contrast in how these teams play defense that I want to call out.
Okay.
I want everyone watching these games to remember this exact stat because I think this is quite telling. Alabama's 134th in the country, dead last in blitzes per dropback. They've blitzed 3% of the time an opponent drops back, which is almost comically low. 3% of the time.
Okay.
Georgia is on the complete opposite end of that spectrum. They're blitzing close to 40% of the time when a team drops back. Now, that could easily change this game, right? Teams break their tendencies all the time when they play up against a different opponent.
Yeah.
Nothing new in that regard, but it's, I think, unlikely that it's going to drastically change and suddenly Bama's doing it 40% of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if those tendencies hold, I've been trying to think through what does that mean. I think it means that Jalen Milroe is going to be under pressure because Georgia is also first in pressure rate. So they're very good at generating pressure on opposing quarterbacks. I think that disrupts what Alabama wants to do, which is stretch the field. Probably means a lot of quick stuff to the outside, maybe some jet sweeps and touch passes and stuff that moves the pocket or Jalen Milroe around.
Right.
Stuff that can manufacture shots down the field because, again, I think that is what they want to do. That's how they want to attack Georgia. What they do with those shots is ultimately what I think is the difference in this game. But I'm curious to see how they handle that Georgia pressure and if, in fact, they are trying to do quick stuff that gets them to the outside.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on the flip side of that exact same discussion, I hate the idea of not pressuring Carson Beck. I hate the idea of giving him time to pick you apart. Bama's going to have to blitz more than 3% of the dropbacks if they want to have a chance in this game.
Yeah.
Because Carson Beck is just way too good. He will take advantage of that. And this is where I trust Georgia more. I trust that Carson Beck is not going to make the big mistake. I trust that they're going to be able to actually set up the run with the pass, which is kind of opposite of what we normally say.
Right.
But I think that's the methodology here, if you're Kirby Smart. I've got this as 27-21 Georgia. With a big win on the road, back up to number 1 in the polls next week. We all go on with our lives. But I thought a lot about that stat in particular. I'm on Georgia here by 6.
Yeah, I wonder about Bama up front as well. Not the blitzing or lack thereof. I wonder what their run defense looks like against Trevor Etienne and Nate Frazier. Georgia's offensive line, I think, by and large, has been very good this year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that was their worst day a couple weeks ago against Kentucky, Georgia's, but certainly made me think about where the explosivity comes from in the passing game for Georgia a little bit, whether it's Dominic Lovett. Like, they don't have, and we talked about this in August, right? They don't have Brock Bowers. They don't have Lad McConkey. And for whatever those guys did, it was also the threat of those guys that opened up elsewhere. And so that's a broader question. But on the road, I'd like to have that silencer if I'm Georgia. I'd like to have that guy on 3rd and 8 where it's like, let's do something fun with him. And it's not, after watching that Kentucky game, it's not obvious who that person is in this moment. That's what gives me pause about Georgia, because how deep they are on defense with what the secondary has looked like. Like, they will find somebody to do a good, if not great job against Ryan Williams, who will probably have a long, consequential catch. But that has been Alabama's biggest weapon this year, is the threat of Ryan Williams doing something great. Jeremy Bernard has been pretty good, but it doesn't seem like Alabama is as deep at those skill guys who could do something great at any given time as they've been in the past. And it's early in the season. Those guys develop, as Kalen DeBoer, the offensive staff get a sense for what Jalen Milroe can do and, where his rapport is. So I guess it's a question on both sides of the ball, is like, who are those playmakers? Right now, I still believe the Georgia defense to be the best and deepest element of this game. And I think that travels. I think what they did against Clemson makes them a lot more tested than what Alabama has proven against Braden Locke, all due respect. But, they played mostly a backup quarterback against Wisconsin and kind of struggled with USF until making very late adjustments along the offensive line. And they've still been beat up on that offensive line. I know Caden Proctor's back after dealing with shoulder stuff. I don't know. To me, it's just, there's too much unknown in this moment about Alabama to feel good about them going against a defense that should be as strong and deep. Like, you look at some of the numbers with Georgia's defense, and it's just like a backup defensive tackle, a backup linebacker. These guys are just getting home all the time.
No.
I'm going Georgia here. I have what did you say, 27-21?
Yeah.
I have 24-20 here.
No. I think it'll be a good game. I mean, I
Same.
think it's a great matchup.
I can't wait.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be awesome. And we will obviously come back on the airwaves and talk about that when we do our midnight recap show out on the YouTube channel, which you can join live and take part in. Give us a call as you're watching this, as you're watching all the games at 855-VERBAL-3. Our guy Shay's back. He was out of town, out of the country.
Where did he go? Japan?
Parts unknown.
Kyoto?
Parts unknown.
Okay.
We're gonna leave it at that. But Shay's back now, so you're actually going to get a better version of the reverb.
Is he an assassin of some kind? Is that why you're being so secretive?
I think it's possible.
Okay.
I don't ask questions.
He went to a country that you have to say the former, right? In name of
That's right.
What used to be known as is where
we
he
have
went.
plausible deniability. He's not an employee. He's just a contractor.
That's true.
So we just take the reverbs. He gives them to us with a smile, and we kind of carry about our business.
Fair enough.
You're going to get a better version of those reverbs now since he is back in town working his magic. 855-VERBAL-3 is how you can give us a call throughout the course of the day. We post it like a million times on social media. If you forget to give us a call, we want all your calls.
Yeah.
I want to hear what you have to say. So we agree on that one, on that front, right?
I think so. This is night game in Tuscaloosa. I think it's going to be great. I think there are more ways for Georgia to score in this moment.
Let's build some quads if you're ready.
I am. Oh, my God.
Think about the heart, passion, love, commitment, and the energy you're willing to put into it.
Do not do the Quadfather workout.
No.
That's the voice of Tom Platz. Again, disclaimer, I'm told if you try it, you will cripple yourself. So don't do that. I've got a couple games here that I pulled out in the early block. I will say, if you are interested, my window of opportunity, which is often imitated but never quite duplicated.
Ah, yes.
you know who you are. I've got this as sort of my flex time. This is when you can go out and be amongst the people. Go see Cats. I don't know if My Old Ass is still in the movies, but go and see it. It got great reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Is it time of year where you do the apple picking and the pumpkin thing?
I've
the
already
hay
had an
rides?
apple pie this year, so it seems that way, from an orchard.
I don't know how early they start that at your local orchard, but if you're out, if you're looking to kind of take in some of that crisp fall air,
Yeah.
early would be the time to do it, because here are the games that I think we're working with. We've got 12 p.m. on ABC, Kentucky at Ole Miss. Ole Miss favored by about 17.5.
Ooh.
We got Minnesota at Michigan. Michigan favored by 9. We've got Baylor at BYU, or excuse me, BYU at Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor favored by 3 at home. And then I pulled out Maryland at Indiana. Indiana favored by 6.5 points. There are some other games that I considered. NIU at NC State is interesting. USF at Tulane is interesting.
Agree.
Navy at UAB to me is very interesting,
Certainly.
because I'd expect that line to be a little bit higher. But I think those are the primary 4 that will be in my quad box, Dan.
I think I'm right. I think I'm right there with you, Ty. Early otherwise.
It's slim pickings. It really is slim
tough.
pickings.
Although
Here's my question about
James
some of
Madison might drop 100 on Ball State. That could be
It's
worth
possible.
watching. Yeah.
Here's my question about that Kentucky Ole Miss game.
Okay.
Do you think there is any kind of speed bump for Ole Miss now that they're going to play a real defense for the first time this year?
Yes. Absolutely yes.
I mean,
also,
no offense to Furman and Middle Tennessee and Wake and Georgia. This is different.
Agree.
This is different playing Kentucky.
I'm taking the points here. Kentucky and Mark Stoops have long played, for the most part, Lane and Ole Miss tightly.
Yeah.
And so I think Ole Miss wins this game. I think they have more ways to win. I am not the Van de Grifter that you are with regard to the Kentucky offense. And
I don't think I am at this point. How could I be?
he was a little better against Ohio. He made plays against Ohio. It was Ohio. It's a little bit different than Ole Miss, but especially early on, I think Kentucky can slow this game down enough that I'm going to say, I don't know, 30-17.
I got 33-14.
Okay.
Barely a cover for Kentucky.
Oh,
but
yeah, I'm
with
taking
you.
those points.
The Little Brown Jug game, Minnesota, Michigan. I got to be honest, also losing faith in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Taiyu Ma is more like Taiyu Blah. I just made that up. I'm sure
Sure.
you love it. I am convinced there is a PJ Fleck problem here, and I don't think they'll fire him,
No.
but they may need to orchestrate some sort of Scott Satterfield maneuver to get him out on his own accord. Like, identify another cushy landing spot to get him to go and do that instead and bring somebody else in. Because I don't know if this is a dude. Kind of take this thing forward. I gotta believe that Sharon Moore looked at the game tape from a week ago against Iowa.
Yeah.
When Minnesota played Iowa for the Floyd of Rosedale game and licked his chops. You know, like, how many times do you think he's actually going to throw the football in this game?
Oh, I mean, if it were up to him.
If it were up
Not
to
many,
him,
yeah.
1. I'll set the over under at 11.5.
I like the points here.
Really?
For Minnesota. Yeah. Okay. So it's a huge letdown moment for Michigan, right?
Okay.
It's a huge letdown moment. And it's a letdown moment coupled with the perception that their opponent this week is vulnerable because of what Caleb Johnson did. I think Minnesota's defense is pretty good. I think it's an opportune moment for a low-scoring, ugly loss for Minnesota.
Oh, man.
Now, Darius Taylor couldn't get going against Iowa, but I don't know. Woody Marks got going a little bit against this Michigan defense. I think Darius Taylor can do a little bit more against Michigan than what he was able to do last week. I don't love Max Brosmer in the way that you did in mid-August, but I don't know. There is something about this specific spot, in a letdown spot. Who does Michigan have next week? It's not full look ahead. I think they're at Washington. I think it's
Okay.
their first road game.
Sure.
But Minnesota right here, I think, can ugly this up enough to keep it close and lose 15-10, 16-11, 14-9, 20-12, something like that.
Maybe a 19-point job again. Why not? I've got 23-13. Michigan wins, barely covers.
Yeah, I don't see. This falls under my silver spoon element to this Saturday. This year, what has Michigan specifically done to earn this kind of number. This year only. I'm going to say not a terrible amount. They pulled out a tough game against a tough team last week that perhaps they shouldn't have been able to do. That's it.
Baylor's my lock of the week this week.
Lock of the week.
I like this pick a lot.
Big home win for BYU a week ago. Huge road loss for Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting matchup here. To your point that you made earlier, that I think we've made probably about 1,000 times now for the first couple weeks of the year. But interesting match between one of the fastest tempo teams in Baylor, one of the slowest teams in BYU. I think Baylor wins. I don't think this is a runaway train. Probably not even easy cover. But I think Baylor's the better team. And I think Baylor's going to win this one like 24-19, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, the way in which BYU beat Kansas State last week, I don't think it's exactly a sustainable model. And so for as good as Jake Retzlaff was, yeah, I think a really strong early defense, which is what Baylor has shown against not incredible competition each week, but decent at home against BYU. I think it's an opportune spot to go Baylor here.
I'm going to give you rapid fire here real quick,
Please.
and then we got to get to the afternoon and the night slates.
Yeah.
I'm on NIU plus the points against NC State.
What's the point? What's the
6.5 right now? NC State has not shown me anything, so I'll take NIU and the points.
I'm going to take NC State. I think it's an overreaction. Continue.
Tulane, I've got over USF. Tulane -5. I think Tulane should be able to throw it all day if they want to against USF.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
And then I've got Navy minus the number. It's 3.5 on the road at UAB. I would expect this line to be a lot higher, especially because UAB refuses to play any defense, especially on the ground.
True.
So Navy should be able to score. I suppose it's an issue of whether they can stop UAB, which in its own right has a decent enough offense. I'm just not buying it. I'm on Navy there. And I might end up throwing a few shekels on this one. I'll post it out on my Twitter at some point on Saturday morning what I'm going with. But looking at this game pretty intently as maybe a go for me with Navy.
Okay. You got to. The only thing I would say is you're saying that USF can be thrown on by Tulane. USF has played Miami and Alabama. They've played like 2 of the 7 best quarterbacks in America already. And so I think in the opposite way that other teams, like, numbers have to be taken with a grain of salt, like the grain is too big with USF.
Okay.
Like the data is too important here. So I think it's going to be a little bit easier for them. But yes, I understand where you're coming from.
All right, here we go. Let's go to the afternoon quad slate, Dan.
Now my question to you is, how bad do you really want legs?
340
Badly.
ABC. I've got Oklahoma -2.5 at Auburn.
Yeah.
I've got 330 CBS Wisconsin at USC. I've got 330 on Fox Colorado at UCF. And 330 on ESPN, I've got Arkansas at Texas A&M. I kind of have as a separate, I guess it's not quad, a mini quad altogether.
Okay.
You need to have Liberty versus App State on one of your screens. You need to have Fresno at UNLV
I agree.
on one of your screens as well. I'm going 6 wide here with my quad box, which is definitely some sort of penalty, but 6 games at the same time that I think are very, very interesting.
Agree. Can I give you some picks?
I'd love them.
Okay. Auburn lock of the week.
Really?
Yes.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, baby.
Lock of the week.
So
Interesting.
a 2.5 3-point dog at home with a decent enough defense going up against a backup quarterback in Michael Hawkins.
True freshman.
True
Michael
freshman playing Jordan Hur Oklahoma has not been able to get that offense going basically against anybody.
No, benched Jackson Arnold.
Now-
So Michael Hawkins is the new guy in. True freshman was
Yes.
a 3-star. Jackson Arnold, formerly the 5-star. All off season, it was Jackson Arnold. We're going to build the whole plan out of Jackson Arnold, and now he's on the bench.
So normally you could say turnovers are random. It's not as random with Auburn after the Cal game and the Arkansas game. There is something impressive about Auburn when they're not turning the ball over. And for that, I'm going to say maybe this is just a respite of a week. Now, this is a good Oklahoma defense, if not very good Oklahoma defense. You can only do so much, though, if your offense can't control the ball or score points or give yourself a rest. So I do like Auburn here. They're not going to score a ton. 20-13. I think they're going to get it done at home and move the ball.
I think this is going to be a rock fight, an absolute rock fight. And I'm with you. I'm going to take the home team with the points. I don't know if they win outright, but getting 2.5 at home, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I think the USC game, I've got USC something like 34-17, barely covering against Wisconsin.
Okay. What did I write down for this one? I have Wisconsin plus the points. I don't know. I think they're going to make it ugly enough. I don't love this Wisconsin team, but again, it's an extraordinary letdown spot for USC. Right?
Agree with that.
Again, you have to find something to like about a team if you're going to feel enthusiastic about it. It's just too many points. It's too many points. I think USC wins by 13. I don't know.
I've got another lock, by the way.
27-14 SC.
Lock of the week.
Not to cut you off there, but I almost can't bottle up my excitement to bet Colorado plus 16 against UCF.
Yeah, same.
So look, a nice win for Colorado last week. They're at 3-1. We know exactly who Colorado is.
Yeah.
They're going to throw. They're going to throw.
That's and throw Colorado again and is. Throw some more. Yeah.
We are 4 weeks into the season. Do you know there is no player on Colorado that is more than 87 yards rushing?
I believe that.
Nobody has gotten over 100 yards yet. This is a thrower. They don't care about running. I don't understand this point spread for the life of me. I think UCF's the better overall team. I like UCF a lot. I think UCF's going to win this game. But this is absolutely going to be a shootout. And Shedeur Sanders is absolutely going to throw for like 450 on this defense.
Yeah.
I take points in a shootout. That is my sort of go-to rule. Anything more than a touchdown, I am taking those points. In this case, it's 16. The over-under is something like 62, so Vegas expects a lot of points. I do not trust the UCF defense to hold down Colorado. So UCF wins at home, a nice win for them, but Colorado is going to cover this point spread. Second lock of the week for me.
So interestingly enough, Colorado has one of the most regressed offenses. The defense has improved this year, and their offense has gotten worse. They're like, I think, 89th in points per drive against FBS teams before garbage time this year. I'm with you. I think it's too many points. I don't trust this defense against the pass, just like you. And I thought, like, Colorado coming back and winning that game, like, if we're going to say winning is a skill, like, that was a skillful win. You needed weird Hail Mary that, like, I don't know what Baylor was doing on that play, that they couldn't construct a defense against a Hail Mary. I think they rushed 5, maybe? They rushed a ton, and Shedeur rolled out.
It wasn't great. What was that stat that you read to me before we hit record about the Colorado defense? They've actually gotten better this year.
The Colorado defense, I believe, is in the 50s in terms of points per drive allowed. According to the Danalytics, trademark, copyright, Colorado has the 15th most improved defense. Early, very small sample rate, but encouraging. The number 15 most improved defense, they're giving up 1+ point fewer per drive. So, over the course of a game, that's meaningful. They got stops in the second half against Nebraska and Colorado State. I think they held under 10 points. So the defense has gotten better. Their offensive line is still an absolute wreck and mess.
No. Real quick, you're picking Arkansas versus Texas A&M. This is the neutral sider that they play at Jerry World.
Yeah.
Connor Wegman, a game-time decision per Mike Elko. Marcel Reed played last week, looked pretty good.
I'm mixed on him. Continue.
I think I'm on A&M, something like 31-24. I could be swayed, though, because I definitely have an Arkansas affinity this year.
Mm-hmm. I'm going Arkansas here. I like where they are as a program, and I think A&M in year one is still trying to figure out where they are. The game is always weird. I'm going to take those points.
The 2 G5 games that we wanted to call out.
Please.
So this is the Liberty versus App State game. Liberty favored by 3.5. We forgot to mention Liberty on the last episode because their game against ECU was still ongoing after we hit stop. But they came back. They were down. I forget what the score was, but they were down fairly early against ECU. They came back. They won that one 35-24 going away. I thought that was an impressive come from behind victory. These two teams have not played in 10 years. And despite the fact that this one looked very consequential before the season, App State has really been exposed.
Yes.
In a significant way. So basically, if you've got a decent offense, you're going to score on App State because the defense has been really, really bad. I would be inclined to go App State because they're at home, but not with what we've seen out of them the last couple of weeks. I'm just
Right.
going to default to Liberty here because I know they can score. I think they've got, enough momentum here at this point that we know what they're about, and there's no reason to think App State's going to provide a whole lot of resistance.
The defenses left on Liberty's schedule, and I'm with you. I think they're going to win this game by about a touchdown. According to SP Plus, very early on, 108, 124, 119, 120, 132, 123, 95, and Sam Houston's 73rd best defensive SP Plus left on the schedule. Wowza.
Should be undefeated against that.
By the way, just a quick little sidebar here. When you talk about should be undefeated, have you seen Duke's schedule and where Duke is in terms of how much they'll be favored the rest of the way out? Like, there is a decent chance we're talking about 9-3 Duke. And they might be favored in all of the rest of their games other than the Miami game.
Yeah. By the way, this week...
It's like their defense has been good, offense has been whatever. They could ACC Iowa their way to a crazy bowl game.
This week, they are about a 2.5, 3-point favorite at home against North Carolina for their rivalry game.
It's a great time to be getting Carolina. Coach just threatened to quit and had to be convinced that he shouldn't be.
Then the other one is 3:30. It's the Fresno game. Fresno at UNLV. UNLV. That line came down for obvious reasons now since Sluka has decided he's going to opt out the rest of the year. UNLV favored by 1. I believe UNLV's quarterback is a transfer from the Campbell Fighting Camels.
Campbell's, yeah.
Haj Malik Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose there's a chance they go unbeaten this year to spite Matt Sluka.
Sure.
Don't know if that's likely, though. I'm going Fresno here. I got to go Fresno. I can't pick UNLV with all this turmoil flying around.
You'd think Fresno would be able to run on UNLV and control the game, especially if UNLV is unable to get their offense. As much as, Brendan Marion and that go-go offense has been fun, especially on the ground, I think Fresno should be able to control it on the ground, given circumstance.
Let's go to the nightcap.
Welcome to the pain zone is where we live.
That was in your vows, right? Welcome to the pain zone. It's where we live.
Ohio State at Michigan State. Ohio State favored by 24 points. We've got Iowa State favored by 14 on the road at Houston. South Alabama.
Woo!
On the road at LSU. LSU favored by 22. Okay.
I'm flipping the legal pad if you're watching on Versus. Continue.
And we've got Cincinnati at Texas Tech. Texas Tech favored by 2.5 points, Dan. Those are my 4 games. Obviously, the showpiece of the nightcap is going to be that Alabama game.
Yeah.
Give me a pick or 2 or 3 for these.
I am going with an Alabama to cover against LSU.
We go in Gio Lopez and Fluff Bothwell.
Oh, yeah. We're feeling fluffy here on the solid verbal. I think they're going to be able to run the ball enough on LSU. Unfortunately, now LSU without Harold Perkins for the duration of the season, which is a pretty significant shame. Feel bad for him. Hope he heals up perfectly. I think South Alabama is going to run enough, and so I'm going to say, 33-20. LSU does not cover. South Alabama is able to cover, and this is a bit of not a letdown look ahead. It's an open-faced look ahead. I think LSU is on bye before they play Ole Miss.
Yeah. Yep.
I like the points with Michigan State. How about that?
See, I've got this at like 38-3 in favor of Ohio State.
Oh, come on.
I do.
I don't know. I can't. Marshall and Akron and whoever, like Western Michigan, I think is the third one Ohio State has played. I think Michigan State's defense is good enough to limit enough possessions and they're not giving Ohio State an actual test. What did I write down here? 35-13. They cover.
I've got Iowa State at Houston, and I've got Cincinnati at Texas Tech. I got a lot of road teams, which I don't feel great about, but I think those are just the better sides.
I love Iowa State huge. This might prove to be a great year to just bet against Houston each week.
You want to lock it up?
Yeah, let's do a double.
Double lock for both of us this week. Okay.
Lock of the week.
I like it.
You know which game I thought about a little bit? Stanford Clemson.
You did.
Yeah. Clemson's season has been weird. Like, they've taken advantage of the teams that they probably should have. Reeling NC State. I'm not saying it wasn't impressive. It was crazy impressive the way they beat NC State. and an App State team who I think we've downgraded a little bit based on what our expectations were ahead of the year. Stanford, I think, is decent. Not great. But that was a nice win against Syracuse last week. By the way, did you see the story that came out of the Stanford Clemson game in the week leading up?
No.
There was, I know we're running long at the moment, but that's okay. This is worth it. There was a possibility that Stanford was going to send their laundry to Clemson to be done after the Syracuse game because they were worried about weight on a plane on a shorter runway in Syracuse, that they were going to send their laundry to Clemson. And the Stanford equipment manager called up the Clemson equipment manager and was like, here's our situation. We don't want to have to drive a second truck back and forth between Western New York and Northern California and then back to South Carolina. And we don't know about our weight issues with the plane and a short runway. Turns out the Spartanburg Greenville Airport has a great runway for getting into town. And so the Stanford equipment manager called the Clemson equipment manager. And Dabo mentioned this in his Monday presser. And Stanford guy was like, is this possible? Could you, if we need help with our laundry, could you hook it up? And the Clemson equipment manager was like, yeah, of course, bro. Equipment managers stick together. We got you. And it was the most heartwarming equipment-related story in college football history that Clemson was potentially going to do Stanford's road uniform laundry. I think Stanford got it figured out, and they will no longer need laundry assistance. But the story was left with something like, we're on call in case there is something last-minute laundry services needed. And I thought that was great.
Beautiful. Okay.
I'm going to give the points with Clemson.
Given the points,
Yes.
yeah. All right, let's get to the super duper late nightcap here.
You have to achieve failure. You have to take it that far. Nobody wants to go that far. It's too scary. But you know something? I got news for you. That's where winning is.
That's where winning is, Dan.
That
These
was in my
late
vows,
games.
Ty. That specific quote. Continue.
You got to push through. You got to make it to these late kicks. We've got Wazoo at Boise. Boise favored by 7.5. FS1 at 10 p.m. Eastern. We've got Arizona at Utah. Utah favored by 11.5, 10:15. And then your Oregon Ducks, 11 p.m. on the Fox network.
Yeah.
Favored by 25.5 on the road at UCLA. You going to stay awake for this game?
Well, I think we're going to be awake anyway because we're doing our live stream at midnight Eastern.
Or are you going to finish watch this game?
So if this game kicks off at 10 local, I usually go to sleep around 1:30 or so Central. So it'll probably be, it'll make sense for me to watch. If we weren't doing the late stream, absolutely not. I would just watch this. I'd get up at 6 a.m. the next morning and buzz through it on YouTube TV. Not a sponsor, could be. Thank God college football has decided that we should bury the best, West Coast running quarterback, the best West Coast running back, if not the best running back in the sport, the best pass defense on the West Coast footprint, the best receiver potentially in the sport, maybe the best team on the West Coast, and UCLA. All in the middle of the night for nobody on, the eastern half of the country to see. Good job, guys. This is great. I have, in order, I'm going to go Boise covering against Wazoo. I think Wazoo is a good team. I think they're going to have difficulty with this rushing attack, and Boise is, quietly improving over the course of the season. I have Utah over Arizona. Now, I don't know what the Cam Rising situation is at time of recording, but I'm not a fan of where Arizona is as a program, although Arizona's coming off a bye, correct?
Arizona's coming off a bye, yes.
Yeah, so I kind of like them, but I think Utah eventually sits on them. That's a lot of points, though. That is a lot of points. I think I like Oregon here, and I wouldn't if Oregon were not coming off of a bye, but the way that they handled Oregon State, UCLA coming off of an LSU game, coming off of middle of the night, I think Oregon is going to very cleanly win this one.
I'm taking the points in Wazoo Boise State. I think this is a classic Pac-12 after dark game. Now it's back, baby.
That's true.
Wazoo plus the points. I'm on Utah minus whatever. I'm on
Really?
Oregon minus
You're just
whatever.
fully out on Arizona?
Yeah.
I think
so.
there's Arizona value. It's a new coach. They might take time, but I don't know. Utah's the wrong team with value.
I'm not out on Arizona as a program, but I'm out on this game.
Could it be a letdown spot for Utah?
I don't see it. I'm on Utah.
Yeah. I wish I had more faith in Arizona running the ball in this moment. Then I might feel better about the Cats and the defense as well.
Dan, if you are in the market for live college football games and podcasts in
Yes.
pristine audio form,
Tell me.
here's your reminder. Go and download the Varsity Network app. It is free to download in the Apple App Store, Google Play Store. Search for your school. Voila, you get whatever content you want. We're on there. If you want to listen to a podcast on there, you can listen to us. There are a bunch of others that are on there as well. Check it out, Varsity Network app. I've got it. You've got it. We use it every Saturday. It has been a lifesaver for us as we try to do what we do here on the show.
I agree.
Dan, we're going to have a monsoon situation this week as well.
Oh, is this tropical, stormy, hurricaney? Where is it?
I think it's going to be moving right towards South Bend, Indiana.
Okay.
We will talk about that when we get.
So maybe not tropical, not necessarily the tropics.
We will talk about that when we get to the Saturday show. We'll see what kind of an impact it has here.
Okay.
Too soon to say.
You did miss one game ahead of the Patriot League, I should say.
Oh?
Georgia grown. Georgia State, Georgia Southern.
Yeah. Okay.
It is big, stanky, and groaning. Drummond 5. Who do you have there in the Georgia grown game?
I'm going to go Georgia State.
I think I'm going Georgia State as well. That's
Give me Georgia State. Give me
Yeah.
the Panthers.
Will you drop that big, stanky Georgia groaning Drummond 5, please?
Okay, here we go, Dan.
I'm ready.
Holy Cross at Syracuse, 12 p.m., ESPN Plus. You go in Crusaders in a huge upset over the Franimal.
Big
Yes, no, maybe
letdown
so.
spot for Cuse.
Yeah,
I'm going Syracuse.
go Syracuse.
Yeah.
12 o'clock, ESPN Plus. Bucknell at Lehigh. Dan?
Give me
Going
Bucknell.
Nellies?
Give me the Nellies.
Going Nellies?
Yeah, absolutely I am.
I got to go Lehigh. 12:30, Multisport Field is hosting Columbia as Georgetown will be in its comfy confines, the Hornets' Nest known as Multisport Field.
Columbia has been practicing. Columbia has been built for this. All season long, Columbia has been piping in that noise. I'm going Columbia here, Patriot League lock of the week.
Okay. Fordham at Monmouth on Flow Sports at 1 o'clock, Dan.
Yeah, give me the Mouthies. Fordham has been awful this
I'm
year.
going hammies.
Yeah.
I'm going hammies. And finally, last but certainly not least, 1 p.m. ESPN Plus, we've got Colgate at Penn. I'm going Penn.
Yeah, I'm going to go Penn as well. After my experience at Angelo's, I feel very good about Philadelphia.
Write in solidverbal@gmail.com. Let us know what we got right, what we got wrong. You can all, of course, find us out on social media as well.
Yeah.
If you are new here, hit follow, hit subscribe. If you are not new here, please tell your friends. We're always trying to grow the Verballerhood.
Yes.
Over the next couple days, we've got our Big Ten Breakfast episode, the new one, which is going to drop Friday morning at 9 a.m. out on the YouTube channel. You can, of course, stop back and listen to the Week 5 recap stream, which we do midnight Eastern on Saturday night. If not, it will hit your podcast feeds bright and early on Sunday morning. And, of course, make sure you go on out to playruntheboard.com and get in on the Pick'em game. It's a great week of games. Play for a $100 Nike gift card. Play against the Verballerhood. All you can do is pick 12 things.
Wow.
10 games against the spread, 2 player props. And that's it. The winner gets the gift card.
Am I eligible?
Not for the prizes. I mean, we buy the prizes. So, no, unless
I can always use more
you
stuff.
want to take it. But otherwise, we both play in this, and it is your opportunity not just to play against Dan and I and all the people that help us with our show,
Yeah.
but all the people that support the show as well, the Verballerhood.
Ah, the best.
I think that's all we have. So, look, longer show, but obviously we had a lot more to discuss here with some of the news at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Silver Spoon Saturday, Dan?
That's correct. What have you done to earn?
Silver Spoon Saturday is upon us. Hope it treats you well. Come on back here on Saturday night or on Sunday morning. Recap these games with us. For that guy over there, Dan Rubenstein, I'm Ty.
I'm Dan.
For that guy over there, Dan, I am Ty. As always,